working with your pants down.
World War II is probably the war that has covered most in video games. It was a war that had a clear enemy and a clear outcome. The Vietnam War, on the other hand, is not so well represented in video games. It's one of these wars that was fought in the media as much as it was fought on the battlefield, and it divided Americans. Still, there are some great games that depict the Vietnam War. In this episode of the Big Retro Show, I'm going to talk about some you can play to get a virtual taste of what it was like in the country. The PS2 and the OG Xbox did a great job of representing Vietnam. This episode is dedicated to everyone who has served in Vietnam and those who continue to serve, both past and present. I watch a lot of Vietnam War movies, and one of the things that creeps me out about the way that the films are shot is the quiet of the jungle. 1 minute a squad is patrolling the jungles looking for the enemy, and the next they are getting ambushed by a heavy machine gun or a booby trap that is set off. It's harrowing. One of the things that I like about Conflict Vietnam, released both on the Xbox and the PS2 in 2004, is that this game offers the same type of feeling you experience when watching the movies. Playing this game is having your head on a swivel constantly. The action is not as fast and furious as it is in the other games that I played for this episode. It's more of a slow burn. Part of this has to do with the heavy emphasis on squad-based tactics. Not ever having played one of these conflict games, there are a bunch of them, I didn't know what was going to be in store for me. The game is a third-person action shooter that places you in some of the biggest battles of the Vietnam War. While you will primarily be fighting in the jungle, you will also have to fight off invading VCs on your own base. The combat in this game is hit or miss and can be frustrating at times. It's inconsistent. Your enemies go down really easy at times and are bullet sponges the next. It can be frustrating. The good thing is that your squad always seems to have your back and they are not pushovers. That being said, it does get cumbersome trying to control them. Each individual squad member can be powered up, and I chose to have a medic, a booby trap specialist, and a heavy machine gunner, as well as a sniper and an all-around leader type of guy. While switching between the characters is quite easy, it takes some brain power because you might need the medic to revive your squad mate during battle, but it's difficult to do because you are in the thick of things. There were other times where I would stumble across a booby trap, run through it, and no one was injured. I was like, but shouldn't a booby trap kill you almost 95% of the time? Well, at least it does in the movies. The controls in this game take getting used to. While this game is primarily a third-person shooter, you can zoom by clicking your R3 button, which gives you a first-person viewpoint. The game allows you to crouch and lie prone to escape from enemy bullets. The weapons in this game are pretty standard. Your main gun has some modes you can use to switch it from burst firing to fully automatic to conserve ammo. I never did this though because I like going in hot and heavy and there's plenty of ammo and weapons you can obtain from your dead enemies. The game also offers grenades, smoke grenades, sticky bombs, and other weapons of murder. Each stage has primary goals to achieve and bonus goals. If you achieve the bonus goals, you get more experience points at the end of the stage to use to level up your squad mates. So in that way, the game has a bit of an RPG factor baked into the gameplay. The graphics in this game are not bad at all for their time, but don't hold up well these days. One of the things that I like about this game is that you never know what's going to be around the corner. There could be a sniper waiting for you, or a villager who just happens to know nothing of any VC in their village only to lead you into an ambush. To me, it captures the feeling of not knowing what's going to happen next. The game can be challenging at times, but for the purposes of this review, I played it on easy, and I did okay with it. In all, Conflict Vietnam is a good way to get things going if you want to experience a Vietnam War game on the PS2 or the Xbox. This game also has a great soundtrack with hits like the Rolling Stones' Paint It Black and Jefferson Airplane's White Rabbit playing in the background. While I won't be playing these for you due to copyright, they are excellent representations of the era. Taking nods from games like Max Payne and Grand Theft Auto 3, Made Man: Confessions of the Family Blood was released exclusively for the PS2 in April 2007. Anyone who has played this game knows that it's not exactly a Vietnam War game, but the game is based on a hero who served time in country and tells of his rise from a lowly mafia grunt to a made man. Most of the game will be spent going on linear missions that involve heavy gunplay. The game's story is told through the eyes of its protagonist, Joey, who recounts his time in Nam, among other exploits on his road to becoming a made man. Your time in Vietnam is highlighted by intense firefights against Viet Cong warriors. You are there with a fellow mob associate who stumbles upon some gold and hatches a plan to steal it. It's a pretty amusing story, and as Joey, you recount your time in Vietnam, which is only 2 levels of the game's 17 stages, to your nephew as you two ride around in Joey's caddy. The gunplay in Made Man is extremely satisfying and has shades of games like Max Payne with its bullet time and GTA 3. The cover system in this game gets you out of the enemy's line of fire and is crucial to use as they hit you from even the trickiest angles. The weapons in this game consist of handguns, Uzis, AK-47s, and shotguns. You can also throw grenades and Molotov cocktails. During certain parts in the Vietnam stages, you can get behind a machine gun to take your enemies out. It's all good fun. One of this game's strengths, aside from its gunplay, is its storytelling. The voice acting in this game, for the most part, is really good, except that none of the characters move their mouths when they talk. It's not a deal breaker, and many of the games during the PS2 era did this. The graphics and sounds in this game are good for that era of gaming, and the game includes music from that era as well. It's a nice touch. Sure, this isn't a game solely based on the Vietnam War, but it's a game that anyone who plays the games mentioned in this episode will enjoy. Have you ever played this game? Viet Cong Purple Haze is a slow burn, first-person shooter that emphasizes the tried-and-true wartime tactic of patience. Released on both the Xbox and PS2, Viet Cong Purple Haze is a welcome addition to the world of Vietnam War video games. You play as a squad leader who, together with your team, undertakes a variety of missions ranging from blowing up Viet Cong weapon caches to stalking them down the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The game is not your typical first-person shooter though. It is best played at a slower pace. Each squad has a point man who you can command to go ahead of your troops to find booby traps and point out where the enemies are. The thing about this though is that he is hella slow. He moves at the pace of molasses. I mean, really slow. I don't mind that, especially since the game is trying to capture the essence of being in a squad where walking into an ambush is fueled by not being aware of your surroundings. But a lot of gamers who grew up playing faster paced first-person shooters will have a tough time with this one. The game is not without its flaws. For example, to disarm a booby trap, you must first carefully sneak up on the trap and wait for the cursor to appear in order to disarm it. Sometimes though, the cursor won't appear no matter how close you get, and I found myself accidentally blowing myself up quite a bit. Then there are times when you can target a specific portion of the booby trap in order for the cursor to appear. It's a lot easier just blowing up the grenades tied to the traps, but you will alert your enemy. Healing in this game can be done by walking up to the medic in your squad and having him heal you. You can also use stim packs, but I never did this because it's a whole lot easier just to walk up to the dude and ask him to heal you. The enemies in this game are methodical and can and will hide behind trees and rocks to get the jump on you. They are accurate shooters and I found myself dying quite a bit. Your squad mates in this game are unfortunately quite ineffective. They rarely move forward to engage the enemy if the point person is not leading them, and this is frustrating. The weapons in this game are very close to the games mentioned in this episode, and you can begin each stage by choosing which weapon you want to go into battle with. The more stages you beat, the more weapons you unlock, and it adds to the fun factor. The sounds of this game seem to be mixed a bit low, and so I had to go into the settings to crank up the volume. The graphics of this game don't hold up well, but fit the era of gaming in which this game came out. Another aspect of this game that adds to the realistic feel it's going for is the use of the radio. You are often calling in for evacs and to give status updates. Although I found this to be kind of cumbersome, it does certainly add some realism to the experience, and I can't really hate on that. The combat in this game is a bit repetitive, with you walking a lot, finding enemies and taking them out and repeating it. It's a bit formulaic, and I wish they would have added some levels where the enemies just rush at you like they did in the Tet Offensive. Overall, this is a worthy game to play if you want to experience some Vietnam War action.
Clear those goddamn recorders rifles now!
Up next is a game that was released on the Xbox in 2004 that puts you in an action-packed first-person shooter as a member of a group of Marines who is fighting the war. Men of Valor is a first-person shooter, much like Viet Cong Purple Haze, but it is a bit more polished and more fast-paced. In Men of Valor, you play as Dean Shepard, who along with his fellow Marines takes on the game's 16 missions. You really get to know Dean through the letters he writes back home. You learn that his younger brother is getting into trouble and his family back home prays that he will remain safe. Similar to Viet Cong, Men of Valor takes you through various Vietnam locations, where you undertake different missions consisting of patrolling enemy routes, clearing out villages, and capturing enemy commanders for some intel. Your squad mates, for the most part, are really smart and can move and fire upon enemies without you giving them commands, which gives the game a faster pace. The healing in this game is done through medicine packs. When you get shot, you begin to bleed. If you don't heal up quickly by pressing and holding the B button, you get permanent dark red damage to your life bar. When you are in a firefight though, this can be difficult to do. Luckily, the enemies drop health and canteens that can help you recover the darker areas of your life bar. Looting your enemies is a critical part of the gameplay as they often carry ammo and health. The enemies in this game are really quite dumb though. It's almost like you are in a shooting gallery and you can take them out with ease, even from afar. I'd like to think that the Viet Cong were way more smarter than they are portrayed in Men of Valor, but I guess that the developers probably thought it would be best to give the player the advantage. That's not to say they are pushovers, because it can be quite deadly at times, but they are fairly dumb. For example, they continue running into this hut, where I have just killed their comrades one after the other. You'd think that they would try to flank me in some way, but nope. They just keep running in there and getting mowed down. The weapons used in this game consist of mostly machine guns and a grenade launcher. You can also lob grenades and sticky bombs at your enemies, which adds to the game's violence. The music in this game is actually really stellar, by far the best out of the games I talk about in this episode. The other thing about this game that is worth a mention is the dialogue, especially the things that are yelled out during combat, such as "Die GI, die." It goes a long way into immersing you into the experience. Overall, I had the most fun playing this game for this episode. I saved the best of the Vietnam War games for last. With a perfect mix of action and realism, Shell Shock Nam 67 is an excellent game if you want to wage war against the VC. The game puts you in the shoes of Cal Walker, who dons a helmet that says Tour Guide. It's a nod for sure to the great Private Joker from Full Metal Jacket, who had Born to Kill along with a peace sign on his helmet. At any rate, Shell Shock Nam 67 is a third-person shooter that was released on both the Xbox and the PS2 in 2004. It was one of the first games that I have ever played back in the day that had to do with the Vietnam War, and I loved it. Along with your squad mates, you go on various seek and destroy type missions, where you travel to a location, blow something up, and move on. The game has you fighting in all of the Vietnam locales, such as villages and rice fields. Its gunplay is extremely satisfying, partly because your enemies are really smart. While you play most of the game in a squad, you eventually work your way up to a promotion in the Special Forces and take on missions all by yourself. It's a change that I didn't see coming in this game, and that's something that the other games don't have. Part of what makes this game so cool is its pacing. You seldom run into booby traps in this game, which I like, but the way you disarm the traps is a bit wonky. You have to use your D-pad to follow a pattern that disarms the trap before the time expires. The thing is, if you don't disarm the trap and it goes off, it's not powerful enough to kill you. It's not exactly realistic, but hey, we are talking about a video game. You are rarely left alone by the VC, and there is action at every turn. After the missions, you get to go back to your base where you can chat with your comrades and spend some money buying things such as a pass that will let you have some R&R. While you can entirely skip exploring the base and talking to people without consequence, it's fun just to run around and see what your fellow soldiers do when they aren't dodging bullets. As you fight your way through the levels and complete your mission assignments, you can find intel and trophies from your fallen enemies and things like flags and VC paraphernalia left behind by the enemy. It adds some replay value to the game, and I missed a lot of these hidden items in the game, so I think I'm going to have to go back and play some of these levels. If you have ever played this game, let me know in the comments how you like it. And that's going to be it for the Big Retro Show. If you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment, and giving a thumbs up to this video.